people ask me if I film with a cinema camera, and I say, yeah, it's in my pocket. Alright,
lame jokes aside.
Here's the thing, your iPhone is already a filmmaking powerhouse, and with the right tools and a few key techniques, you can create cinematic videos that look like they came from a high-end camera. No expensive gear, no complicated setups. In this video, I'm going to show you the only iPhone filmmaking setup you'll ever need to shoot professional quality videos that will impress without overcomplicating things. When you're filming in 4K ProRes, your iPhone storage fills up fast, and nothing kills your creativity more than having to stop in the middle of the shoot to free up space. And that's why I recommend always using an external SSD. It gives you reliable, fast storage and allows you to offload footage without slowing down your workflow. And best of it all, it keeps your clips organized, away from your Photos app, so you're not digging through selfies, screenshot, and other random media when it's time to edit. And this right here, this is my go-to SSD drive. This is the Lexar Professional Go portable SSD. It's as simple as plug and play and fast enough to handle high frame rate recordings. It goes up to 2 terabytes, but for most creators, 1 terabyte is more than enough. Now, I've mentioned this SSD so often, Lexar really owes me a coffee. Now, by the way, all the product links are in the video description below if you want to check them out. Now, shooting in bright lighting conditions can blow out your highlights and ruin that smooth cinematic motion blur. And that's where a VND filter comes in. It's like sunglasses for your lens. VND filters reduce light hitting the sensor, helping you maintain the proper shutter speed for natural motion blur. And here's a quick rule. The shutter speed should be set to double your frame rate, so 1/50 for 25 frames per second, or 1/120 for 60 frames per second, and so on, to maintain that realistic motion blur. And this is also known as the 180-degree rule. If you want something easy to use, I recommend the motion variable ND filter that I'm holding here from Sandmark. It clips right onto your phone and lets you adjust the amount of light coming in by twisting this part. And I'm going to show you in just a bit on how to expose correctly. Now, the default iPhone camera app is great for quick shots, but it's limited when you want full control. And that's why I recommend the Blackmagic camera app. It's free and gives you full manual control over ISO, shutter speed, frame rate, white balance, focus, and more. Everything you'd expect from a pro camera. It also supports log, which captures more dynamic range and color detail for better grading later. Plus, you can preview a LUT while shooting to get a feel for your final look without baking it in. And speaking of LUTs, check out my premium mobile LUTs designed specifically for mobile shooters. These LUTs give your footage a creative look that you can apply instantly in almost all editing apps and software. I've included a link in the description. So next is to set your resolution and frame rate, and that is what defines the visual quality of your video, so it's worth getting them right. Now, I always recommend shooting in 4K on your iPhone. It gives you sharper detail and more flexibility for reframing in post. Now, for that cinematic look, stick with 24 or 25 frames per second. This gives you that real-time playback. And if you want to shoot in slow motion or super slow motion, you can go with 60 or 120 frames per second, and then slow it down in the edit for that buttery smooth movement. So next up is to lock your exposure and white balance. Inside the Blackmagic camera app, you can manually set and lock both ISO and white balance. I usually keep my ISO as low as possible to avoid noise, and while ISO 1250 is considered the native ISO for Apple Log on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, my VND filter can't bring the exposure down enough at that level when filming outdoors like today. But by keeping my ISO low and exposing correctly, the results are still clean and more than good enough. And also remember to lock your white balance manually to avoid color shifts. By having your white balance locked, you have a consistent look in your video and will result in a more professional look. And what's also cool is that you can save these settings inside the Blackmagic camera app as a preset to save time for future shoots. So let me now walk you through the Blackmagic camera app, show you what settings I use most of the time to give me the best results. And I'm also going to show you how to use the VND filter to expose correctly so that you nail your exposure in every shot. So we're now inside the Blackmagic camera app, and I have the Lexar Professional Go SSD connected. And to make sure that you are recording your footage onto the SSD, head over to the settings, head down to media, and then below you see save clips to, select that and select files, Lexar. And you can see it will save all of my clips onto my SSD. So I'm gonna select open. Let's now head back to the camera viewer. So I'm using the 24mm lens. I'm shooting in 25 frames per second, and currently the shutter speed is set to auto, so 1/4000. Now you could film in that shutter speed, but you'll notice that as I wave my hand in front of the camera, everything looks sharp. So in order to achieve a more natural looking motion blur like we see with our own eyes, we want our shutter speed to be double our frame rate. Now we're gonna do that in just a second. Just wanna walk you through all of the other settings that I'm using. The ISO I set to the lowest number, which is 54. As for the white balance, what I like to do is set it to auto first, so it will detect the white balance for me. It usually does a good job at that, and then I lock it. And same goes for the tint. I set it to auto and then lock it. Now, if you want, you can also manually dial in your white balance or use one of these presets. Now, as for the resolution, I'm shooting in 4K. Let's head over to settings, record, and the codec I'm choosing is HEVC H.265, which still gives me great quality while keeping the file size small. For something in between, I also sometimes shoot in Apple ProRes 422 LT, but if you want the highest quality possible, Apple ProRes 422 HQ will give you the best quality, but keep in mind that the file size are huge. Now I'm going to select H.265 again, and be sure to select the highest bitrate so that it will capture the most information and therefore give you a higher quality video. Now let's head back, and I like to shoot in Apple Log, which creates this flat image and allows me to color grade my shot later on. Now when I head to camera, you'll see that the image doesn't look flat at all, and that is because I applied a preview LUT. And to apply a preview LUT, head to the settings, go down to LUTs, and then up here, enable display LUT, and then head over to the LUT selection, and then choose Apple Log to Rec 709. And you can also import your own LUTs if you want to. If you want to bake in the LUT, you can choose Record LUT to Clip. And then head back to camera, and then select this top part, and below you can see the LUT icon. Select that and then enable it. So when I turn it off and on, you can see that it will apply the preview LUT. And this way you can really see how it would look like once you apply the conversion LUT, and also makes it easier to see what you're shooting. So let me now show you how to expose correctly using the VND filter. So right now our shutter speed is set to 1/2544, and you can see we don't get any motion blur. So we have a frame rate of 25 frames per second. So we want our shutter speed to be double our frame rate, which is 1/50. Let's set that. You'll notice that our image is now overexposed, and that is where our VND filter comes in. Going to clip that onto the lens, and you can see now that our image looks way better. Now to better expose my image, I like to use these zebras, which show me which part of the image is overexposed. And to enable that, I head up here and select this zebra icon and set it to on. And the percentage I set to 80. And then I can simply twist the VND until these zebra stripes are completely gone. And as you can see, now we get a well-exposed image with natural motion blur, just like we see with our own eyes, providing a filmic look. Now next is to frame with intention. Framing is one of the easiest ways to make your footage look instantly more professional. And what you want to do is turn on your camera's grid lines and use the rule of thirds. And from here on, you can place your subject at one of the intersection points instead of a dead center that most people use. Try to listen to your guts and get a feeling of what looks good and what doesn't. And by using the rule of thirds, this will add a balance and interest to your frame. I also recommend turn on the leveler to keep your horizon straight. A slight tilted shot can throw things off and quickly look amateurish. Next is to create depth. Flat shots look boring, so you want to avoid that by adding layers to your footage to make it look more three-dimensional. And to layer your composition, think of foreground, midground, and background. Now you can also use leading lines to guide the viewer's eye towards your subject, and on top of that you can even add camera movements such as a push-in or slide shot to make the shot more immersive and pull your audience into the scene. Now next is to use natural light and play around with contrast. Natural light is powerful and it's free. Once you learn how to work with it, your videos will instantly look better. When you're out shooting, look for contrast where the light meets the shadow. It adds shape and emotion to your visuals. Try placing your subject so the light hits them from the side for added dimension. Now to achieve a softer, more even look when filming during noon, consider filming in shaded areas to avoid harsh shadows. Backlight can also create an interesting contrast where the background is brightly lit while the subject remains in shadow. However, keep in mind that iPhones often capture lens flares with green dots when filming towards the sun. And you can either adjust the camera position or edit the flares out during the edit to remove it. Next is to stabilize your shots. Shaky footage is distracting, and a simple tripod or gimbal can make a huge difference in your video. I suggest the Ulanzi MT44 phone tripod if you're looking to capture static shots of yourself. Now when shooting handheld, another way to get steady shots is by tucking in your elbows and having it close to your body. This way you will have more control. You can also lean against a wall or any stable surface to achieve more steady shots. Now if you want to create more complex movement, a gimbal is a great option, and the one I suggest is the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro. And tools like a gimbal and a tripod are really great for getting steady shots without taking up much space. Last but not least is editing with intention. Editing is where it all comes together. Cut with purpose. Every transition, every effect should support the story, not distract from it. For quick edits on your phone, I recommend InShot for free or LumaFusion for a one-time payment of $30 for more advanced phone editing. If you're editing on a desktop, my preferred main editing software is Final Cut Pro. It comes with a 90-day free trial if you guys want to check it out. I think it's one of the most intuitive editing softwares to start with.
Now, as a bonus tip, I want to show you how to easily convert your Apple log footage inside Final Cut Pro. So I've already imported the clip from my Lexar SSD into Final Cut Pro, and the first thing you want to do is make sure the clip is not converted by Final Cut Pro automatically. So to check that, select your clip, head over to this information icon, and then be sure to select General. This way we can head over to this Camera LUT tab and be sure none is selected. This way we can work with this Apple log footage properly. And the first thing I'm going to do is apply a custom LUT. So I'm going to type in custom LUT and just drag it over to the clip. So the first thing we're going to do is convert this log footage to Rec 709. So I'm going to head up here. And I have a conversion LUT inside my premium mobile LUT pack, but Apple also has an official conversion LUT that you can download for free. I'll be sure to link it in the description. So I'm going to choose Apple Log 2 Rec 709. And now you can see we have a nicely converted image. And then from here on, I'm going to apply another custom LUT. And this time I'm going to choose a creative LUT to create our look. So I'm going to choose one of my premium mobile LUTs, but you can choose any other LUT if you have ones that are compatible for mobile phones. So I'm going to head over to my premium mobile LUTs, and you can see I have different presets. I could choose Summer Dream, but I'm gonna go for, let's go for the blockbuster look. Now you can see that the effect applied is too intense, so I'm going to reduce it to around, let's go for 60%. The next thing I'm going to do is add a color wheel, and I'm going to make sure that I drag this to the top of the chain, and then I'm going to head over to the color wheel, and to me this is a bit too dark, so I'm going to drag the highlight around here. This to me looks good. So if we now look at the before and after, this is what we get. So our first step was converting the LUT, and this looks great already, but if you want to add a creative touch to it, you can add a creative LUT, which looks like this. And then on top, I've applied a color wheel to just bring up the highlights a bit more.
All right, folks, to wrap this up, like I said, you don't need fancy gear to make great content. With the right setup, a bit of know-how, and some creative thinking, you've got everything you need to shoot cinematic content with your phone. And remember that you always can upgrade your gear later on as you gain more experience and grow your skills. But for now, start experimenting with what you have, and most importantly, don't be afraid to make mistakes and learn from them. If you want to go deeper, check out my smartphone filmmaking course packed with step-by-step lessons and real-world examples to help you shoot and master it fast. Or if you want personalized support, I also offer one-on-one coaching program where I'll work with you directly to improve your videos, plan content, and grow your creative skills. Everything I mentioned is linked in the description. If you found this helpful, drop a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I love to hear about your setup and your next shoot. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and see you in the next one.